You are listening to Cemetery Confessions, the world's #1 goth talk podcast.
Hello and welcome back to Cemetery Confessions. As always, I am your host, Danny Ashes, and I'm here with my co-host, Trey. On today's episode, we're going to be chatting with Dave Batts of Release the Bats, the Long Beach deathrock, goth rock event that ran for about 20 years and featured over 80 bands. We're going to be chatting about the deathrock scene in California, fashion and DIY and its relevance to the scene, and hearing some exciting stories from Dave, some of which include Eva O, alcohol, drugs, and the police. So you're going to want to stick around for that. I will say there is some audio difficulties, glitches in the beginning of the episode, but we do get those cleared up around 15, 16 minutes in. So they're not terrible, but if it bothers you, they get taken care of. So let's get into the episode. Dave, thank you for joining us. I know you were just at a brewery earlier today trying to get a DJ gig. How did that work out?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Have you DJ'd there before?
Really great brew. No, not yet. I'm working the boulevard here near our house, trying to get
okay.
places. And I've gotten 3 so far. Now I've been trying to lead up to this place. It's our favorite one, whole place, on the whole street. There's about 4 on the street. And,
wow.
I'm now taking them over. But but I finally got in with this place for tomorrow. There's in the area they have the Oktoberfest celebration, and they have this bus, a double-decker London bus that goes around and around to different blocks around here, a couple of square miles. Oh no, like 1 square mile really, to all these different breweries, and drops people off and picks people up for about 4 hours during the day. And it's an Oktoberfest thing, so it's pop music.
Yeah,
I get to DJ at Ambitious Ales, this place over here on the street, which is, like I said, I've been coveting getting in there, and I get to do my thing, which is the 80s. I do a lot of 80s music because remember I'm DJing on the street, so
yeah,
playing a lot of Bauhaus, stuff like that.
Yeah,
playing more like B-52s and a lot of 80s. I get away with murder when I play the 80s stuff. all the alternative cool shit that everybody liked when they were young. And the little kids dig it.
Right.
You can get away with slipping more of the goth stuff into the sets this season, though.
Right now it's come on. This whole month I've done 3. I've done almost 4 events now so far. Oh yeah. Just last week I did this great one. It's a really neat community of people, regular people, moms, dads, and the retired community across the street making American flags out of wood. It's just a nice community of people. When I'm playing a lot of 70s and 80s classic rock and stuff like that for these people. But it's Halloween, so I got to play a lot of the Nightmare Before Christmas soundtrack, a lot of that sort of stuff. But what I got to play, and they have no idea what hit, was Electric Hellfire Club. Like I said, I've never heard this version before. People were loving it. I said, if you only knew.
That's fantastic. I did want to personally thank you for coming on, because I know I don't know you two, but whenever I do see video clips of you or Twitch streams, any of that kind of stuff, it's really clear that you're very passionate about the scene, and it's really kind of infectious. The kind of like excitement that oozes out of you both, and it really like picks me up, and I think that's a rare quality in people. So it's really personally nice to have you both on the podcast. So I did want to get that out there.
Oh. Good, very nice. We're fun people.
Dave, are you drinking something tonight, or did you get your fill?
Actually, over there I started with my favorite thing over there is called Central Perk. I guess they named it after the Friends thing, but it's a really good coffee beer type thing. But now I'm drinking Guinness. Beer. Love Guinness. Guinness Drought, my favorite beer of all time. Dave Batts loves Guinness. It's a thing.
Guinness is
Guinness.
Good.
Here's this. Dave Batts loves Guinness. # Guinness.
Their stock price just went up. So, well, we were talking about DJ gigs. I am interested because you're saying you're going out, you're talking to bars and looking to get out and do some stuff. I know personally, I'm constantly juggling a million projects and wishing I had more free time. But I do wonder, though, now that you're not running Release the Bats, if you've kind of settled into some quiet time, or if you're the kind of person that always needs to have something to work on.
Oh, I'm always doing something all the time. Yeah. My latest thing is I'm doing oil paintings now. That's the new thing.
Oh.
But after Release the Bats ended, we kept doing stuff. It was only about a year after we closed after only about a year after we stopped doing Release the Bats every month, and then bam, right. COVID happened. So, but during that time, we still did other stuff with friends and promoters, and traveled, and we still do our New York thing with Sean and those guys at the Red Party. But it's just the only thing that really ended there was the consecutiveness of every month for 20 years. That's really all. We still do and did. But then COVID happened. But during all that time, we were talking about DJ gigs a moment ago. I became a professional mobile disc jockey, so I'm actually doing that for a living, playing music to everybody, not just us, but to everybody out of the clubs and on the street with Dave. But it's instead of being Dave Bat, it's DJ Dave, or the kids call me DJ Dave. It's really nice, but it's a really great job to have. But we're still doing stuff now. And then now that all the COVID ended, I didn't say ended, is becoming less as we speak. We're starting to do more stuff, and we have the anniversary coming up on the 22nd. Then we're doing Halloween with our friend John with Dust Bunker on the 29th, and then there's some more things planned ahead. But we're not really doing a lot of things like right now. We're just sort of like tiptoeing back in the water, just doing here and there. But we kept busy, the whole time. I picked up oil painting and just a whole bunch of other stuff.
Are you
and the Twitch shows? Twitch shows were a lot of fun too. Twitch was really great. That's a lot of fun. It's not. There's nothing cooler than having a DJ booth in your house, in your living room.
Yeah. Yeah, the one specifically I was thinking of was I can't remember what it was for, but it was one of those like multi-DJ event things. I can't remember what the name of it was, but
isn't that something? Think about that for a second, right? So in a club, they have like 5 DJs and then a band, blah blah blah. Now imagine having 45 DJs. Now that's unheard of. You can and live in a club, you can't do that. Well, you can when you have one router or one computer, focused on 45 different people throughout the world for 48 hours straight.
Yeah, over the world. That's insane.
I've always done. I want to do clubs from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Right? Mm-hmm. Imagine doing it from Friday to Monday.
Yeah.
So that's where the Twitch thing came in. And the other thing, everybody just got so we all got exposed to such great fucking music from everywhere else. We know a lot of stuff. I've been around the block. We all know a lot of great stuff. But when the Twitch thing happened, holy shit! We were in Spain. Now we're in Portugal. Now we're in New York. Now we're in Long Beach. Now we're everywhere. Amazing.
Yeah. I kind of skipped right over introductions. I do want to get some of that stuff in here. So I just kind of want to ask if you can talk about how you personally got into alternative and goth culture, and why that connected with you, why that has kept you involved for such a long time.
Well, it all goes back to rock radio. What is it? And a band called The Cure. It was in the mid 80s, and new wave was happening, all that sort of stuff. Luckily, I had a brother who was 10 years older than me and a sister that was 8 years older than me, and they were already into really good stuff. So I was exposed to neat stuff early on. But the alternative thing happened when I got into The Cure. So even my mom to this day will say, "Oh God, The Cure." She blames him for everything. But with The Cure came everything else. Come on. Head on the Door, that album, right? Yeah. So you're 15 years old listening to Head on the Door. Yeah. My God, adults listen to that now and want to kill themselves.
Yeah.
It's such deep shit. Yeah. So back then, but still, then came Susie, and all the bumper sticker bands came, like most goth fledglings do. They discover the bumper sticker bands, but then it gets deeper and deeper. And then you meet some cooler kids, so shit like that. And it just stuck with me my whole life. I'm not a vampire, but I guess we are. I guess we are kind of vampires in a way. We're a lot older than we are now, but we run into old friends from way back when, and they go, "Oh my God, you haven't changed at all." I'm like, I know. It's called being goth, motherfucker.
So it's just kind of like an extension of, how you found yourself, like your personality and all that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, goth people find this. It doesn't find you. And a lot of people stick with it, and a lot of people don't. We were just talking about this earlier. And look at all of the old friends we had that just drop out. And it's not about clothes and stuff. They still listen to the Bolshoi or whatever, the Cure, whatever in their car. But whatever they're doing, but they're just out. They don't do anything at all. But some of us, I don't want to say, for lack of a better term, make a career out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're not rich. My God, what do we make? Doing what? But I never became the Cure. I always wanted to be the Cure. Yeah. But anyway, they're the problem. They're the reason I did what I did. And I can blame them easily. Yeah, you stick with it. A lot of people stick with it. It's not a choice. It's a lifestyle, and it becomes a thing. Like I always said, it starts with the music, and then it becomes a lifestyle.
Yeah, and that you're right. Like a lot of that early shit, like especially the Cure and everything, were like they were reading, Camus and Baudelaire, and like I remember the pop group was talking about how all the being like 16, 17-year-old kids and reading all these philosophers and this like literature and stuff, and that informing their music. And it's just so crazy because that's like
look at Dead Can Dance. Okay, let's go back in time. Dead Can Dance. Those first 3 albums, we all own them. Everybody has the first 3 albums. I'm sure first 3 or 4 albums within the realm of I mean all that stuff. Yeah. And that's deep shit. And here we are. We're 16 years old, listening to this Mortal Coil. What?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If you're 16 years old and you're into this Mortal Coil, well, that's it. You're not going to get better than that, man. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, you did it. You're there. You're alive for now.
And then I know you've talked about this a million times, but just for people who don't know, how did Release the Bats come about, and was that something you intended to be such a long haul, or was it just you wanted to do something and kind of took it as it came, I guess?
Yeah, okay. Well, there's a classic story there with that. The whole thing was, and it was actually a Halloween party. That's all it was. Jeremy from a Gasoline magazine and all. Mm-hmm. We were at the Case Rock. We've been going there for a little while at that point. There was a goth club there prior to us called Kiss Empire, and it turned out to be Linda LeSabre from Death Right 69 and DJ Hothead. Anyway, so we knew him. Oh my God, you're here! And so we got to know the Case Rock pretty well. Anyhow, the owner and the manager said, "Hey, you guys are all of that goth stuff. You want to throw a Halloween party this year? We want to have a goth Halloween party. Like that. We said, sure, we love this place. We love to do it, but we're like, what? Death rock though, like old school, like lunch pails and specimen type old grave and remember L.A. Hollywood. Okay, great. They don't give a hell. They don't even care. They don't care. Do whatever you're gonna do. So we're going to have a death rock party. So we launched this idea to some of our friends, like Tiny Cancer and some people we are, people we knew, so and our all these mutual friends we had. And then like, oh, what a great idea, do it. So we threw this. We planned this Halloween party, but it was a couple of days before Halloween, and we were going to book a band, but we really didn't have anybody available. Everybody we wanted, they were doing something or they weren't doing anything at the time, whatever was happening. Well, this band that just came back from Germany, they were getting pretty big, called Cinema Strange at the time. They just played WGT. They just played the first time, and they get some radio play, la la la. Well, we knew these guys from Simi Valley years prior to this, so we called up Lucas and, hey, we got this Halloween party. It's a death rock night. Your band's doing really well. We like you guys. Blah blah blah. You want to play it? Oh, sure. So they agreed to play it. Anyhow, the funny thing about that was the first flyer we put out, we didn't have a band, and the flyer said featuring a band, kind of like built up this. Everybody's who's playing? We didn't tell anybody. So the Strange is here, and they played. And it was really cool, and that was really great. But at the time, remember that was and internet's new. Not everybody has a phone camera, and that shit's available. It's all film. So if you find photos,
A couple.
you're lucky, you know.
Super fun.
Yeah. She just said we have some. That's the other thing. It sucks about goth clubs and taking. You know, it's part of it.
Yeah.
Still using.
It was just amazing night. Cameras. Remember what was the big gigantic wide, you know, angle shots of it. But anyhow, it was a great. It was just this big, you know, old school party since it. A few weeks went by, whatever, and about to do this again. They said, "Yeah, we have this open." So January, back and did it all over. And this is in called Penis Flytrap. They wanted to. Well, there you go. Now the internet is taken off. Now it's what 1999, January 99, 1666. What we did was on all the flyers that year, we flipped the year upside down so it looked like 60. That's what we wrote back then. The whole year. It was really badass for 1666. Anyhow, so Penis Flytrap's playing, and that's of course, you know, 45 Brave spinoff, according to us. Penis Flytrap is actually an old band of Dookie Flyswatter and Elvoria and Von Spivey, whom was in Penis Flytrap. So, and Dookie Flyswatter was the original singer for Penis Flytrap until Johnny Cancer took over. Anyway, a little trivia.
Love it.
And so they played, and that just spawned a whole hell spawn of blood and guts and everything else. And now we have this kind of like cool horror thing going on. So that's getting around town. Well, at the same moment with having the Cinema Strange kids, I'll call them kids, play, there's a German connection going on. Now, this new internet that everybody's getting on, and everyone's getting .coms and AOL and all this sort of stuff. The Germans are doing the same thing. And what they're doing over there, some friends that we made are doing a death sort of thing over there too. At the same time we're doing, like, you know what? We're going to focus on new bands that play guitars and play old music. We can leave VNV Nation to the other clubs. Leave all this stuff that's going on. I always see, I love VNV Nation. Don't get me wrong, but I use them as the example of that time. So leave the trance music to the trance, that sort of thing. You know, this, I guess the word dark wave's coming in. Okay, that's fine, whatever. But leave that over there. You guys do that with your mega clubs and do other things you do. We're going to go to this dive bar in Long Beach and have a guitar-driven old school night. New bands, old records, right? And it fucking took off. Well, our friends in Berlin are doing the same thing. And the internet's blowing up. So now all of a sudden people are getting wind of this, worldwide getting wind of it. So that's interesting. And then Jatan Damone wants to play, and then all these other people want to play. Suddenly this, you know, we're Long Beach, where the Que Sera is about, what would you say, 30 miles from Hollywood? About 30 miles south of Hollywood. And you'd assume everybody's playing in Hollywood. Well, they were. But that was in the 80s, you know. Yeah. In the 90s. Now it really doesn't matter. Hollywood, I hate to say it, but Hollywood sucks now. It's just a overbuilt Forever 21 fucking H&M store. It sucks. You know, there's all the cool venues are gone. It's just, you know, you won't find shit in Hollywood. I hate to say that. It's so sad to say that. Yeah. So, you know, but anyhow, back then, so now we're going down to this bar in Long Beach, which no one would ever suspect, especially new. I'm an 80s baby. I come from the 80s. I was into the 80s stuff. Beach had a big scene. There was Fender's Ballroom, all kinds of stuff going on. Bogarts. What? Oh yeah, way back then. But there was a thriving scene in the 80s, but everybody moved to Hollywood.
Yeah. Oh, you did mention one thing. You said you were mentioning Cinema Strange and people doing stuff in Germany, and you know, you were kind of talking about the 90s. I did wonder, especially I guess late 90s, early 2000s, there was that deathrock revival, which was that kind of international thing. And I always wondered how that looked in California, because obviously that's the birthplace of deathrock. And I was wondering if that was a thing there, or people kind of rolled their eyes or didn't care. Or, I mean, I know bands came out of there obviously, but as far as the scene, if that was felt as a thing.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. That whole thing, it is sort of spawned in a way because of us and our German connection.
Really? Okay.
And Penis Flytrap and the old bands. The Christian, the Christian Death. There was this old, the old bands, lack of a better word, old bands that were now, coming out, and we were providing a place for them to play. It's not that they weren't getting gigs. It wasn't that. It just, there was a focus on what we were doing. And the same thing in Germany with these guys in Berlin. They were doing the same thing. And it sort of sprawled out. So then you got promoters in England that were doing the same type of thing, but everybody's kind of overlooking it. And so as it grew in a sense, a lot of the newer dark wavy sort of cyberpunk or cyber goth people looked like, those fucking death rockers, whatever. Because now you got kids or people showing up at clubs with fucking black mohawks and and like looking like we used to. It never went away. The death rock and old gothic music, it's never went away. It just sort of like was kind of pushed into the back a little bit, like I said a long time ago. And the Unz thing was taking over the front rooms as our scene grew and grew, as scenes do. It balloons out and you get a whole bunch of people in a room. Well, where we used to have 45 people, now we have 445 people. So now you can have all the different opinions and what they think is what. Mm-hmm. Well, that all kind of happened. So the newer goth-ish people and all that were looking weird at the death rock people. But then, whatever, it doesn't matter. Who fucking cares? Fine, whatever. And to do whatever you're fucking gonna do. That's what I always said. But as a revival, I don't think it was ever actually a revival. I think there was just more focus put on what was pushed in the back, for a long time. I don't think so. I've always thought, Eva O is still playing music, Jatan Damon's still playing music, and Dying Cancer is still doing music. Christian Death with Valor is still doing stuff, whatever. That's another thing. But all this old stuff still going on, and Alien Sex Fiend's still putting shit out. So it was weird, it was something that should have, I guess, kind of in a way became antiquated, didn't. And really Sabat's helped facilitate its eternity. Oh, wow, that was kind of deep right there. Yeah. So I don't know if it's a revival. I just think, what?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, because people do, not that there's never that aspect of it, but a lot of people don't like the idea of a revival because it implies you're doing stuff that was already done rather than something new or continuing something that was already going.
But with that, I hate to interrupt you, I'm sorry. But with that, a whole lot of new bands started up and weren't VMB Nation type bands. They weren't like that. They were like the old bands. And to this day, there's a lot of great bands like that. And now what's happened over time is the Unz has incorporated itself, Unz being not too bad now, has incorporated itself into that death rocker sound. And now you got these new bands that are coming out right now that sound dark and cool and not too electronic and not too hardcore, just right down the middle. It's really nice. Twin Tribes, shit like that. Just right down the middle,
Yeah. Well, there's so much happening right now. And there was the, like in the 80s, there was just everything was happening. And then you had the second or third wave in the 90s when it was very much like, we're going to do what they did in the 80s, but we're very goth now and we're very serious.
Yeah. And they were picking the genres instead of just experimenting with sounds and inventing things. They were like, oh, I want to gravitate to be goth, or I want to be new wave, or I want to be synth pop. They would pick a style and run with it rather than the very free for all of the late 70s, early 80s. And I think that's what we're seeing now is we had that pick and choose the genres through the 90s and early 2000s. But now there's another, what happens if we crossbreed all of these different genres that have been calcified and mix them up and change it around? We have this flourishing of, I'm just doing my own thing and it's not really a genre anymore.
And it's all over the world too, which is the really cool thing. And it was interesting too, because I think in the late 2000s, it was, there were a lot fewer new bands coming out and doing interesting things. And it was a lot of the the trends of like fashion experimentation with like new goth and pastel goth and health goth, however you feel about that stuff. But it felt like there was a dearth of music. And then, you know, the last 6 or so years has been really exciting with all this crazy shit happening.
Yeah, I agree to that. I agree. I think the 90s was the era of categorization. Everybody had to find a bin card in a record store to be as categorized as they could. And you know, the 80s, everything was new. It was new. People were inventing this shit as they went along. You know, Barry Mephisto Walls was making his sound out of pedals and wiring shit together to make that sound. Yeah. Now you can buy it on you know, on your home software with that kind of sound. But anyhow, it was new then. The 90s categorization, and everybody's finding their place. But yeah, in the last 20 years, wow, it's just stuff has gotten so crazy. And there's a lot of, now the thing is, there's a one steadfast rule that everybody has to remember. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. That's all there is to it. You know, I get a whole lot of stuff sent to me all the time. And, you know, no offense to anybody who's listening, but some of it's really bad. You know, I'm sorry. But some of it's just fucking razor sharp good stuff. And I'll play stuff like on the Twitch shows. I loved doing the Twitch shows because I could play these songs. I can't wait till next year. I'm playing it now. Yeah. And this is a band from Spain called, you know, whatever the hell they're called. Yeah. But the song sounds so incredibly great. I know if I put that on the dance floor here, they will dance to it. They will, because it's just so good. If you just, it's certain songs sound really good, and a lot of people good at that. Really good songs are. Yeah, for sure. So I know this is kind of an impossible question considering Release the Bats as a monthly thing spanned 20 years, and you had a whole bunch you had lesser known local bands, all the like canon goth and death rock bands you were talking about. So I know it's kind of impossible to summarize what that was like, but for people who weren't ever fortunate enough to visit, can you try and paint a picture of like what kind of people would go, what the energy of the experience was like, maybe some standout memories from the events to sort of memorialize what that was? It's from our perspective, right? Yeah. I wish, I'll put it this way. I wish we could have gone to that. I would love to have stood in line out in front and paid $5 or whatever the hell they're charging. 10. It was never more than 10 to get in and go in this place and yeah, well, two times it was $10. Whatever they're charging. How did we get away with $10? Who the fuck was playing? Anyway, that's funny. I have to look that up. But you know, if you saw the place, you're like, "What? I'm paying $10 to go in here?" No, it's not that. We know the thing. The more you drink, the bigger it gets. No, but I would love to have stood in line and gone in there and just been part of it. Because what I would see were people that don't go out all the time, and they wait for something really good to happen, and they want to have a really great night. They take an Uber or a taxi there, and they tie it on. And I always have to tell people all the time, listen, the bar is heavy-handed. Every drink's a double pour. Don't fuck around. But it was always a really fun time. Everybody had a good time, and that's the thing. We put out that vibe from the very beginning, and all the pictures you'd see on the internet were people smiling and arm in arm. It was like a joyous thing. To get to this place was fun. You know you're going to have a good time. The band that's going to play is either going to be really great or they're going to really be bad. And you're going to go outside and smoke for half an hour, 45 minutes. That's the truth. God's honest truth. I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah. You know, I'm not going to, but people would just be so excited to be there. And that, I just fucking loved that. That was what kept it going that whole time. It really was the excitement. You know, it was like, I made it. That was, you know, when you go in, it was just a dark bar with loud music playing. The lights are flashing at you. There's a fog machine and some skulls and shit hanging all over the place. Yeah. You've seen all that before. But there was just something about it. Yeah. Something about it. I don't know. And people have told me their stories. And I love hearing other people's stories about it. You know, especially people that did important things like propose to their wife or break up with their boyfriend or just saying things in their life that happened there. It's really cool. And there aren't a lot of events that consistently do DJs and bands either. And I think that's something, because like you said, I here in Chicago, I also know that a lot of
the older goths will come out just for the bands, and the younger folks will go out just for the DJ nights. So kind of marrying those two things, I think, is really the best of both worlds in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it was, because what we got to do was I got to bring out bands that I liked, and they didn't get gigs all the time. Where were they going to play? So I would have a band like Tragic Black from Utah. You know, they had, it wasn't their first LA gig, right? It was their second time they played LA. Yeah. But you know, who are these guys? So we had them, and I love them. I just loved those guys. They're just such great dudes, you know, just great kids. And brought them out, and they played, and no one knew the hell they were. It was really great. Things like that, just certain bands. Yeah. LA bands, same thing with LA bands too. And if they went somewhere or they didn't afterwards, and if they went somewhere, I take credit for it. No, but no, this guy did that. No, not really. But and having like big bands like big Mephisto Walls and Chitanamo. I say Chitanamo and Eva O because they played a lot. It was every time they played, it was their idea. They'd call up, hey, what can I play again? I have some new stuff I want to do. You know, they wanted to experiment and do new things. So, you know, fucking what? All right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course.
Who's going to say no? Right. Yeah. Well, I'm, you know, so, but then when we had dance nights with no bands, it was always a real special time too, to have just dance nights. Oh my God, there's no band. How great. And the stage would be wide open. So people could dance on stage. And I'd always say, like, you want to shake, get out there and shake it, you know, if you want to get down. And we'd have lights on them and stuff. It sort of became like an American Bandstand thing going on.
Right. Well, what, you know, speaking of kind of wishing you could have gone yourself, I know you've talked before about how after you ended Release the Bats, you wanted somebody else to kind of pick up the mantle and do something new. And I've also talked to people who have asked about, like, I don't have anything in my area, or maybe there is and I want to start something new. How do I do that? So I thought I wanted to ask if you could kind of speak to the advice of the behind the scenes stuff, like starting an event, getting people, how do you get people to come out? How do you find a venue? Safety stuff you have to deal with that kind of thing, you know, to actually hold an event for people who want to do that.
No, the most important thing is just try it once or twice. If the worst that's going to happen, I say this all the time. The worst that's going to happen is nothing. That's it. You're not going to fail. You know, who cares? You know, you tried and it didn't work. You know, and then you can try again. There are venues out there that'll hold this. They'll have it. You just got to find one. And you know, with Que Sera, like I said a while back, we had already been going there. We were already established in there, and they wanted us to throw a goth party for them, and it just happened to be fucking rad. So that's a little bit different, you know. So I've tried other stuff at other venues, and it flops, or you know, I've done, you know, got two nights out of it, and then that's it. Nobody comes to it. Shit happens. It's unpredictable. That's the thing. But just try it. That's it. You know, and just get word out there that there's a place for bands to play, and you know, just if you could try and get a big band just for a little stamp, you know, on it, great. You know, but the main thing is just try. The worst is, like I said, nothing. The worst is going to happen is nothing. That's it. Yeah. At least you have one or two good nights. At least, you know.
Yeah, that's true. There have been a few nights I've gone to that were only ended up being one or two nights, and they were like, hey, they went to a bar like in the suburbs or somewhere, and they're like, hey, I've got 20 people I know will show up to this thing. Can we have the bar for a night and DJ in this corner or something like that?
Yeah, shit like that starts all the time, and then sometimes it gets picked up. I know I've had friends that have done the same exact thing. They start in a little bar in some weird Lakewood suburb somewhere, and now and all of a sudden, too many people are coming, so they have to move venues. Luckily, they find one, and it just grows and grows and grows. You know, Das Bunker, for instance, was the same way. They started at Que Sera, and that place only holds 200 people legally. Yeah, and it started the same way Bats did, and well, not the same way. It wasn't a Halloween party. But the same thing, they started there, and they had some bands play, and the DJ thing, and it just grew and grew, and they had to get a new venue, so they moved to a new place, and then that got bigger. Now they're at this place called the Catch One, which is like a 2,000 person capacity. It's too big. It's like a rave. I don't want to go to that. It's a rave. I used to love Das Bunker, you know, but now it's mega, you know, and he didn't do it much for a couple of years, and comes back, and boom, it's just the same caliber as it was. So that's the thing. Some people you just have to try. You just have to try. You know, that's all.
when it comes to music that's coming out of California, I know, like, obviously there's a history of death rock there, and everybody knows about that. And Christian death was a big deal. Death rock more broadly was a big deal. Is it harder for either DJs or bands to play new stuff? Is there like a faction that they only want to hear 80s death rock and they don't give a shit about anything else? Does that make it difficult, or is it more accepting?
Well, it's kind of always been that way forever. It's always been that way. I mean, Sisters of Mercy were new. They had new songs once, and there's a new Alien Sex album. There was new stuff too. Yeah. There's a funny story real fast when we did this all ages club back when I was about 16 years old, way back when. Shane, my dingbat, the singer of Element, my other cohort, that released the Bats, he was the main DJ at this thing, and he was already in the set, but he's about a year and a half older than me. He was already an established DJ in the scene, and he would get record promos sent to him. Well, he got the new Skinny Puppy, the album Rabies. Rabies was coming out, and he got a new promo album with a couple of songs on it, and he played this during the club, and I'm like, oh my god, new Skinny Puppy, wow, up in the booth with him, freaking out.
Yeah,
oh, that's great. Anyway, just moments later, this guy comes up, hey, can you play Skinny Puppy? Now, granted, the guy didn't know, because he didn't have a microphone, not announcing the shit, but he said, I just did. So now this guy went, what? And I saw his face light up because he loved the song, And he said, something, I thought it sounded like Skinny Puppy, something like that. So it's always been a thing to play new music. Now, the thing I was kind of saying earlier about if it's good, right? There's obscure bands, there's new bands, there's certain bands that are happening right now that have a song or two that you can. What I do, I have a secret. What I do is I'll float them between Susie and Bauhaus, or the big things, right?
Yeah.
Like right after Romeo's Distress ends, boom, here comes something new, right? Now at that point, you have your choice. I'm going to walk away, or I'm going to groove to this. Most of the time they stay, because most of the time I DJ also in key. So if the song ends in the E, the next song coming is in the E, that type of thing. And so it has to flow. As long as you flow that new song in there, you're not tricking people. No, you're exposing people to something new. And if it's a good song, it's going to be a good song. So DJs have a job. They have to play good music. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You have no choice. There's 1,000 old rad songs you can play in a night that'll keep the floor packed all night long.
Yep.
Wait, whoa. There's about 12 new ones that you're going to want to throw in there. And they're hit or miss. If they walk away, bam, here comes Susie the Banshees.
Yeah.
Reel them back in, if that's what they want. But also you have to read the room. You have to read your crowd, know who you're DJing to and what kind of night it is too. Yeah. That's what I was
saying. So what about this then? Because we're talking a lot about music, but I know one of the things that people like to talk about is fashion. And one of the things people complain about is that it's too easy to buy clothing online, and they say it creates this sort of dispassionate connection with goth because you're focusing more on fashion rather than music. But I know that DIY is a big part of death rock and that aesthetic. So I'm wondering if you have thoughts on the fashion versus music thing, or if DIY is still relevant to people in the scene there.
I tell you what we'll do? We'll find something really bitchin' online, like you just said, but we'll order it and bring it home, boom, do something else to it. Yeah. DIY is really important. I always said this. You're not making your own clothes, but you're altering stuff. And that's how it's always been. My car's altered in some way. All my jackets are altered. But we put badges on, pins, studs, all this shit. Everything's DIY. Do it yourself. You can make your own clothes. Yeah, fuck yeah. We have friends that make all their own clothes. It's sort of a punk aesthetic. It goes way back, That's the thing about this scene. It's always had a punk rock old aesthetic to it of creativity. It's all about that kind of shit. And there's fashion goths who just dress the part. They can order online, straight out, and that's all there is to it. But then there's the others that give a shit about all of it and the music and that aesthetic. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think I for me, I guess the bigger concern is fast fashion not being great for the environment, but also like if people are spending money on other goths that are making stuff instead of spending it from like corporations that just want your money kind of thing. And I think I don't really worry too much about kids getting into goth fashion before music, because everybody starts somewhere, you know, and people find goth aesthetic before music and that, or community, and then they find that later and fall in love with it. Or the people who don't, I think they kind of, their style evolves and they get into a different subculture, and then it doesn't really even matter to us anyway.
Right.
And so the idea that kids are going to go online and see, oh, goth is just these people wearing clothing and that's all it is. We have access to everything now, and I don't think kids are stupid. I think they'll figure out what's going on. Maybe it'll take them a little longer to get into it, but people really freak out about about the fashion side of it, and I don't think it really has too much of an impact personally. But
yeah, you're right.
Similar feeling I have as you count. I don't think it's that much of a threat. Like you said, if they're into it, they'll be into it. If they're not, they'll move away eventually.
Yeah.
And it's not like they're giving goth a bad name or doing things like that. That has nothing to do with whether into clothes or music. You can get people who are into anything, and through their behaviors or their acting in the world could give whatever a bad name. So that's unrelated.
It is. It's totally unrelated. Yeah, because the people who are critiquing this aren't talking to deathrock dudes who are all into like Killing Joke and Bauhaus.
Right.
You're talking to anime people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Wear black all you want. It's all good. You look cool. You know, that's cool. Yeah, at least you look good.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, we have Jen's cousin has a daughter that's recently started to dress goth, like, you know, with like all this full on cool goth look. But she doesn't know any of the stuff involved in being that. We keep going, come to us. You should come. There's a band called The Cure. Let's talk about them again.
Do you like being sad, kids?
Yeah, you'll relate to this.
You know, I think we kind of touched on this already, but this question is always something people argue about. And as a DJ and as a musician, I think those are kind of two different sides of this coin, where there was certainly a period of time where musicians didn't want to be associated with goth, even though they were goth, right? But it feels like a lot of bands and even just people are more comfortable, because that was the joke for so long, right? That, you know, someone's a real goth if they look like one, but they say they aren't. So how do you feel as far as labeling music or art in that way, like stuff that you create and you do? Are you comfortable with saying, oh yeah, this is goth stuff, or are you more, it's just a thing I do? No.
I've always said goth is goth.
Yeah.
You know, don't fuck around. There's no. It is what it is. It's like we're talking about Andrew Eldridge a little.
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, Faith in the Muse did an interview I remember in a Chicago zine where they were basically saying like, no, we're not associated with that. We just make music. You know, it's just art.
Yeah, I love those guys. Give me a fucking break. You're a fucking goth band. Just fucking face it. What the fuck's wrong with it? Who cares? You know, my opinion isn't goth music. If you're in a goth band, you're making Faith in the Muse. Have you heard Faith in the Muse? My God, who's going to play that? You know, that's incredible shit. And to say, and if you said we're a goth band, that's like the ultimate dark underground. There's nothing darker or underground than goth. I'm sorry, this is it. There's nothing else. So if you don't want to associate with that, then all right, fine. And what are you after? Yes, you are. You're a goth band. I'm sorry. Andrew Eldridge is a goth. Sister Mercy is a goth band. The Cure is a goth band.
Yeah.
All bands are goth bands. I'm sorry. That's just it. I'm sorry.
I agree. It was funny. I just read that book, Waiting for Another War, which was about the Sisters of Mercy from, I think, 80 to 85. And the guy who wrote it was clearly like a huge fanboy. And it was funny to hear him justify them not being goth, where he would say like the music press was wrong because they just wanted a label to put on it so they could quantify it, and the fans were wrong because they just didn't understand the genius of Andrew's art. And it's like, you know, you're jumping through some hoops to get to this conclusion here.
Yeah, you heard Reptile House?
Yeah. Yeah,
Come on.
Jesus.
Hold on a minute. It's great. It's a great album. It's classic. But
Yeah,
come on.
for sure.
Oh my God. No, goth. I'm sorry, but it's the ultimate.
Yeah. All right. Well, so I've had this conversation come up in my personal life recently. So I wanted to kind of pose it to you, but there's this conversation around how we should deal with drama or with problematic people in the scene, because it's this complicated situation where on the one hand, you want to keep abusers out of the community. Obviously, you want to keep racists out of the community. But on the other hand, you do have people that are kind of poisoning the well or working against the greater interest of the scene by starting rumors about people that they don't like, which is hard when you want to take accusations about other people seriously. So, as kind of, what do you think the role of DJs or promoters should be in that? Should it just be left up to the venue and like bouncers to take care of that kind of thing? Or how do we sort of deal with that?
That's heavy.
Yeah, it is.
But, if it's from the promoter's aspect, it's in our world anyway. The scene's pretty close knit, so we're going to know who's problematic, and if we can stop this person, if it's bad enough to where it becomes a problem and is going to infringe on anybody's night or make somebody uncomfortable, and we're going to have to stop the person from coming into the door and have the person leave. Now, if we're talking about Facebook or internet drama, I can't even help you there, dude. It's going to go all over the place. Someone's going to have an opinion about an opinion about an opinion, and it's all going to go all blown out of proportion. So fuck the internet and all that kind of drama. I don't even take part in it. I'm done. No way. But in real life, if it becomes an issue, we had issues in the past we had to take care of, and it was very polite, and the problem solved, and everybody's fine. But if it's it affects you personally and it affects the club personally, you have to take care of the issue.
Yeah. It does seem like you two are very involved on a personal level with everybody or at least most people that go out to your events. So it seems like you would be in on what was going on in the community in that way, I guess.
Yeah. And I have no reason to blast anybody out loud on.
For sure. No, you don't need to do that.
I take care of things old school. Verbally and in person and break.
Take them out behind the shed. Yeah.
Anyway.
I was thinking about how to ask you questions around like stories from bands and things. And I can't, you've had what, like, I think sometime you said 80 or so bands play Release the Bat. Is that right? Yeah.
80 something. 85 bands, I think it was.
So I picked from the list on this handy dandy Release the Bat shirt that I have. I picked one of the bands that I think I would personally like to hear if you have a story or a memory of.
Okay.
And that is the Superheroines, because I think that's one of those bands that don't get a lot of credit for their influence on death rock.
Let me tell you. Fucking Superheroines played Release the Bats. Let me say it one more time. Superheroines played Release the Bats. Yeah, I can say that. Now, as a kid with that fucking we can cuss, right? This is
yeah, for sure.
We're not on the radio, right?
No.
With that fucking Hell Comes to Your House album, number 1, with Death on the Elevator, and number 2, finding the Superheroines albums, and then Shadow Project. Oh my! Well, of course, Christian Death, but then Shadow Project. Are you fucking kidding?
Yeah.
I've been in love with her talent and everything about Eva O since the moment I picked up that fucking thing. And when they played, actually, the first time I heard it was funny. They were booked for Bats. I forget what year or month it was, and something happened. They couldn't play. There was some issue. Oh my God! Oh my! You've heard Eva O talk, right? Oh my God! I'm so sorry. I have to cancel the show. I go, wow, what's That was an emergency. Anyway, so, she had to cancel the show, no problem. I made this badass flyer and everything. Anyhow, so she rebooked it months later, and they came out. Now, who's playing with her?
Daughter.
Edwin. No, it's the first time. They played twice. The first time, I made the color flyer. The really badass, the color flyers you make like at the print shop that cost $80 for like, 100. I made those for this thing, right? With the Superheroines logo. It was Edwin, her husband at the time. Edwin's from Kettle Cadaver. Oh my God. Talk about a crazy band, a crazy guy, right? R.I.P. I love you. I love you. Rest in peace. And Frankie was on drums. Frankie was the guy in the video who pushed Valor on stage at WGT.
Really? Oh, okay.
So Frankie, the guy who shoved Valor.
That's fantastic.
Right. So because he was yelling at her in the crowd. Anyway.
Yeah, I remember.
So anyway, they're on stage, and I'm going, "Are you fucking kidding me?" All this, and I'm watching her play now. I'm a musician. I've been playing my whole life. I don't get this writing and this way they do these changes in these songs. Watching her hands, and she's singing. Fuck. Anyway, so I got really excited about talking about Super Brown. So I don't remember the after party. I don't know what happened. They came over afterwards, and we still had the Kettle Cadaver DVD that Edwin had given us years. Oh yeah, it was the guitar night. No, it's leading into an after party. That's right. Here we go. Okay, here we go. So we go to our house afterwards. We live 1.2 from the Que Sera up the hill, and so we're all hanging out. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm not breaking up, right?
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah.
This is a good one. This is exciting. Hold on, let me open another beer. Okay, so we're all hanging out. First of all, Kettle Cadaver DVD is on my shelf, and Edwin's like, "Oh, I've been looking at your DVDs." He has this cool like Norwegian accent. No offense to Norwegians, my bad accent. The DVDs. He goes, "Oh, what the fuck is this?" Pulls it out. It's his DVD he gave me probably, I don't know, 6 years before that. It's still wrapped. I never watched it. Oh my God, I'm sorry, but the guy was gross. He had staples and saw blades. I don't like gore that much. I'm not into it. So he gave us this ration of shit for Night of Our Opening. You guys are pussies. You never watched my video. So anyway, so a little bit later on, now it's about, I don't know, 3 o'clock in the morning or so. Because here in LA, I'm sure Chicago's 2 o'clock, right? You have to close at 2.
Well, it depends. Nocturna closes at like 6 in the morning. It depends on where it is.
5 or 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, the regular clubs are usually around 2.
Yeah.
Fucking 6 in the morning. What are you, fucking vampires? Yeah. Actually, we are. No. So now Eva O has my acoustic guitar, and she's playing. Oh yeah, playing. There's about probably 15 people. It's a 1-bedroom apartment, 500 square foot wide bedroom apartment.
Oh geez, wow.
All the neighbors know us, and everything's cool. Well, so we think. Anyhow, all of a sudden, bam, 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 bam. This big knock on the door. Now people are still coming over, but I'm thinking that's not a very friendly knock. Open the door, and there's 2 fucking cops standing there, right? He had lived there at this point for well over 10 years. Never has a cop come over yet. Right?
Wow.
We've done this a few times. And here are these 2 cops. They're probably like, 10 years younger than me. Like, and I go, yeah, what? What's going on? And they go, well, all right, you want to step outside? I'm like, okay. So I close the door and go, shh, quiet. Now all of a sudden Eva's like, shh, everybody be quiet. Now everybody's going, shh, the cops are here. The cops, man, you guys are idiots. And everybody's, there's weed.
Yeah.
And a lot of booze and things. So I go outside and close the door and like, what's going on? And the guy's looking at me like, well, are you kidding? You guys are being really loud. And I go, oh, really? Oh, okay. He says, well, look, now keep in mind, it's me, right? It's not like some crazy man. It's bats with his makeup on and his hair up in the air. What am I going to do? His partner standing downstairs looking at us, just looking up on him, just shaking his head like, oh my God, he's covered a room full of goths, He says, oh, look, we talked about it. He said he was real cool about it. He goes, look, just cut out with the music, I said, what I told him was, look, I have a room full of drunks that can't drive home. I have to wait till they sober up before I can let them leave. Oh, good. Yeah. And they said, okay, well, look, just turn the music down and keep the voices down, blah, blah, blah. All right, cool, thanks a lot. And then he turns around, hey, and also cut out with the marijuana. We can smell all the way down. Okay, whatever. So Eva O got us busted singing super heroin songs.
That's hilarious.
Everyone's yelling at me about his fucking Kettle Cadaver CD.
That is I'm so glad I asked. That's a fantastic story.
Just whatever you're imagining, it's probably what you're imagining.
That's amazing. That's so good. Wow, I don't even know where to go from there. That's like we can just end the show.
There's more.
I guess on a different note, because you've been talking about, well, you had 15 people, close friends in the tiny room, and the way that you talk about the scene is so loving, as like a family. And I guess I've been thinking recently about how lucky I am to be part of the goth scene just in general, because, as we age, you notice that you lose friends from life circumstances or whatever. But having this built-in community means it doesn't matter where I go. If I put in effort, I can develop new friendships and have a support group no matter where I am or how old I am. And you have such a close-knit community there. I don't know if you can describe what that means to you or how that's meant, like your life, going through your life with that and your life events and that kind of thing, how that's impacted you as a person, I guess. It's kind of a vague question, but.
No, that's not vague at all. It's a really good question. It's really important. You're right. You're absolutely right. In our scene, we are really close knit. Every one of us. If we don't see, we might not all see each other for lengthy periods of time in between.
Yeah.
But all of us can pick up where we left off. Every one of us. There's a big group. I have a dozen or more, a couple dozen people that I know whom, if I don't talk to for 2 years or more, we'll just, when we get together again, hey, so anyway, I was talking to so-and-so and like nothing happened. And now we have a lot of cool shit to talk about. But it is important. And one time, a long time ago, kind of reflects on the club, because it's kind of all hell spun from the club.
Mm-hmm.
Someone referred to Release the Bats. It was really badass. And they said, Release the Bats is like the island of the misfit toys. And I said, what? And they said, look at all these people. Every one of these people in this place right now has a home. They have somewhere they can go. They can be in here and they can be as ridiculous as they want to be. And to an extent, don't be an idiot. I have to put that in the parentheses. But people have a place to go, and other clubs are a place to go to, and they have their niche scene and side of it as well. But the whole place doesn't seem to be on the same wavelength. And the people we know and that we deal with, and who we've kept close together since for a long, long time, a lot. They mean the world to us, and we all know it. So when we all get together again, it is a big deal. But you're right. You can if you had to drop out and move to some other state and change your name and go into the witness protection program, you're going to find other people that are going to dig what you're into, and whoop, you can move in. It really is true. There'll be some idiot in that group, I'm sure, but people to move in. You're going to find people. You're going to find solace in this family. Yeah. It's called goth. We're goth people. That's why, because we're all goth people. You're gonna find them.
Yeah.
Take a fucking machete through the roof, find it. You're gonna find them. and a lot of times you become friends. And it's not just about music and having music in common. It's about having an aesthetic in common. You were that kid again. You were that kid at 16 listening to This Mortal Coil. The only one in that class of 35 people. You just found the other kid who knew who that band was, who sat in the back. We're everywhere.
Yeah.
But we're not all there. But yeah, right. It is a close-knit community. That's how we can reflect back on what we're talking about with weirdos in the scene or drama and assholes, troublemakers. Well, you know what? We know who they are, and they're gone.
Yeah.
We know how to handle them. That's the other thing. We have plenty of people in our life that come to clubs or are part of friends of ours that are fucking crazy, but you know how to handle it. And someone goes, hey, that guy's offensive. Hold on. Let me explain real quick. Oh, okay. We have those too. But that's the thing. We're all part of this. We're all part of this big family of things.
You can have a conversation with people and work it out, instead of a bunch of strangers where you're just screaming at each other kind of thing. Usually. I always have to ask anytime someone comes on who's been to Wave Gothic Treffen, I have to ask them about their impressions, what that was like, sort of the comparison of that to an event here in the States, because I've never been, and it's obviously this Mecca kind of thing.
That could never happen here. It will never. Wave Gothic Treffen would never be able to happen in the United States. First of all, it's too organized. These people have the shit. Even my friends who are part of it go, no, they don't. No, yeah, they do. Compared to everybody I know. Imagine taking part of a city. It's not okay. You can go to a club on Friday, you go to a club on Saturday, club on Sunday, club on Monday here anytime you want, pretty much, right? Out there, so they don't call them clubs; they're called parties.
Yeah.
And the parties, we're talking about people getting together. Like a moment ago, imagine a worldwide knit community finally getting together, like my friends in Germany, my friends in England. Now we're all arm in arm dancing to Twin Tribes in Germany. All that stuff all wraps up at WGT. It's a magical experience. I would tell everybody, if you have the means, because it is expensive, you're not going to fucking Chicago or LA. You're going to fucking Germany. Nothing's cheap. It's the same as prices, everything here. But save up, go to it. You have to experience this, and have a friend that's going already, that has gone already. What the fuck's going on? The first time we went, we had plenty of friends in bands and everybody that went, but we didn't meet up with them right away. So we were fucking lost for like almost a whole day, and until we heard some English-speaking people in our hotel lobby, and it turned out 2 of them were the DJs were with me at the parties. Oh shit, no way! But that close-knit community we're talking about. Imagine now there's 18,000 of them, but no, it's also a poser fest. There's also a lot of weekend. They're gonna glue their hair. I'm going to be gothic too for the weekend. They glue their hair up and they put on clothes. You know who they are. You see them a mile away. They're just like here, posers all over the fucking place. Forget them. But you're going for the bands, you're going for the parties, you're going for the booze, you're going for all that stuff. It is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. 4 days, basically 5 really, of absolutely amazing. And nothing starts until 10, 11, 12, until 7. But day number 2, you're already your jet lag's gone and you're into it. And the next thing you know, you're videotaping you and your friends, drinking beer at 7 o'clock in the morning, like it's just, and all your friends who live there are going, oh my God, look at these guys. Oh, these guys are from America, aren't they? But it's magical, and it's not just, I don't know, it's weird. You come home depressed because you had to come home.
Yeah.
Everybody does. Everybody gets the WGT blues.
Yeah.
By the time that week's over, you've met so many people, made so many friends, and you're not going to see half of them again until if you go again next year or whatever.
Yeah.
If they go to New York for when we're for a Murder of Crows, hey, that's pretty cool. We're doing Murder of Crows, So now a lot of those people we met in the past come over here. It's like, hey, finally.
Right. Since we're on events, we could kind of wrap up and mention what you have coming up, what you have planned, what you're working on, where people can find you on Facebook or that kind of thing.
Oh, we can model for an oil painting.
Yeah, yeah. Let's do that. Actually.
Oh my God, the oil painting is going so well. I'm getting commissions now. People want me to paint stuff for them. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
I absolutely love it. I have on my Facebook page, Dave Batts Facebook page. I have a whole folder of them, and they're all sold. It's fucking blowing my mind. But what's coming up? I'll tell you what's coming up. Release the Bats 23rd anniversary party coming up at the Quesera, our original place where we started it all.
Mm-hmm.
On next Friday, right? Yeah, this Friday coming up, the 22nd, and it'll be me and Shane and Dave Grave spinning all the cryptic tunes that made Release the Bats what it was. We didn't book a band. We're like, no, let's not book a band. No, like I said, just going back in the water, going back in the shallow end.
Yeah,
so easy, nice, easy party. Nothing to focus on, just dance and have a good time. So that'd be great. And see a lot of old friends there. But then a week later, we have This Is Halloween, which we teamed up with Josh Bunker at a really bitchin' venue in Echo Park called Don Quixote. And old school venue. A lot of quinceañeras and things like that happen there. But it's one big room with a big balcony and all this like double decker. I haven't been inside. I just saw pictures. I can't wait.
Oh, nice.
And 3 DJs, and it's an old school gothic / industrial, like we used to call it back in the 80s and 90s. Halloween party, and so that'll be really great. So not like a big hoopla. We're not jumping through hoops, not a 3-ring circus. We have the momentum and the ability to do 3-ring circus events, but no. We'll wait 3 more months, see how things go. When the masks come off, then we'll start talking some serious shit. But till then, we're just taking it step by step. And just, being goths on the down low. doing my day job. I love my day job, being a community DJ for kids and people. It's so fun. God.
Do you dress more I guess, for lack of a better word, conservatively for that?
In a way, I wear like an oversized button-up shirt with black peg pants, my monkey boots, and a black hat. So no, not really.
Okay, yeah.
It's the same. If I'm not dressed to go out, which is my other uniform is stretch jeans, boots, a band shirt, and a leather jacket.
Mm-hmm.
Other uniform. This uniform is what I used to wear in high school, basically. Which my mom actually said, you still dress like you do in high school. I know. It's been a long time. Enough fashion never dies.
Yeah.
I'm still like it's 1986. But peg pants, nice shirt. But I wear different hats. Sometimes wear a visor if I do different gigs, because sometimes I have announcing events where I talk.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll look a little more sporty. I'll wear my Adidas. Hey, look out! That's about it. Actually, what I don't wear eyeliner, and I leave my leather jacket at home. That's really it.
Yeah.
That's I don't wear a fish shirt.
Yeah, leave your nipple rings at home, right?
Yeah, nothing like that.
Dave and Jen in the background. Thank you so much for coming on. This was really fun for me, and I really appreciated your time and getting to hang out for a little bit.
Yeah, it's great talking to you. Too bad we're not in person. It's a lot more fun when we're sitting at a table.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely want to come out there for sure.
Album review.
So we're talking about the album Danzando en el Caos by Desenterradas. And this is a post-punk death rock group, all-woman band from Spain. From what I could tell, there's not a lot of information that I could find, at least. It seems like they've been a band for about 10 years, and they put out an EP in 2015. But this was their first full-length album, and it was released on October 6th. So let's play a track from this. I actually didn't think about this ahead of time.
I thought track 1 was pretty good.
Yeah, track 1 it's really strong opener. So let's go with that. Un día extraño.
Extraño.
Soy una
All right, so I don't have too much to say, so I'll just share my thoughts on this album, 10-track album. This to me really felt like a Halloween album, and I don't know if it's just because it is spooky season right now and I'm in that mood, or if that was the purpose. They were trying to infuse that into the album, but it really felt like an October album to me. There's nothing really obviously Halloween-y about it, but it feels like it's in that category of The Damned or 45 Grave, where it's not, they're doing a specific style, but it feels like you could play it at a Halloween party or while you're out grave robbing. But other than that, thematically, it's a pretty straightforward album. It's largely a punk album. Some tracks veer more towards death rock or vice versa. And it's, I thought it was super dancey, and I was blasting it in the car driving around, and it's one of those, it's just so high energy all the way through. There's a lot of shouting, and it's a good, like, speeding down the highway, blasting heavy metal kind of thing. It's like one of those albums. I also really liked that the album was in Spanish. I didn't understand most of it, but I do love hearing goth music done in a variety of different languages, because I think it adds something different to the music. There's a different tempo or a different song structure depending on what language it is, and I think it's interesting hearing music I'm familiar with in that way. That's it. I mean, it's a straightforward, energetic, spooky death rock punk album, basically. It is what you think it is. There's no surprises or anything like that. It kicks ass, and it's right in line with the kind of music I like to listen to when I put my hair up and put on my battle jacket and go out and do crazy shit. So I really enjoyed it. It felt appropriate for this episode. If you liked the song that we just played, definitely go check it out on Bandcamp. And for me, this was a 4 out of 5.
Nice. So, I mean, I know historically, if you've heard me review things on the show before, punk death rock isn't necessarily at the top of my music favorites list. This album, however, was a lot of fun. I get you with that. I agree. It's up tempo. It's got good energy. It's got some interesting sounds to it, and it's not just a language thing. They've got the lead singer's got good voice, effective use of background singers as well, or maybe not background singers, but at least voice doubling. So I like what the package they put together. It definitely has that punk vibe, but it's definitely a dark punk. It's not a standard punk. It definitely veers towards the death rock, though it's a little bit too up tempo to be really death rocky. Because it's got that punk energy with the sort of death rock feel and vibe, with the timbre of the voices and the instrumentation. Definitely had that sort of death rock feel, just at that punk tempo. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I like some songs more than others. The album just breezes by, though. It's not a long album, but even at its length, it feels even shorter than it is. I would play it, and because I've been playing it on Bandcamp, it would just play through once and it would be like done. I'm like, wait, it's done already?
Shockingly, it's way shorter than it seems like it should be.
But I put it back through. I listened to it a bunch of times, and I actually did buy it. So I really did enjoy it. I thought it was a really good album. And if you're into punk, especially punk or death rock, as long as you're not needing your death rock to be at a funerary tempo all the time, if you're willing to have a little bit of extra fun with your death rock, a little bit of mixing of death rock with like some Specimen or something, it's really going to be up your alley. So yeah, I definitely strongly recommend it. I'm not going to go up to 4. I'll say a 3.5, but that's me. It's not my preferred genre, but still solid album. Definitely a good entry. Love hearing the voices from other countries and all that. So yeah, definitely recommended.
Awesome. I'm glad you liked it, because I know you don't like those kind of bands, and I was kind of reticent. I have like a list of 15, 20 album Bandcamp links that I pulled that I was trying to decide. And this felt like it was both appropriate for this episode and something that you might enjoy. So I'm glad that you got
I did. I
something
mean,
out
you
of it.
posted a lot of those on your Facebook too, and I think I went through and listened to all of the Bandcamp links you posted
Oh,
on your
really?
Facebook when you had that big
Yeah, I
core
posted a few of the
dump.
ones I liked
I'm
more.
trying to remember which one I really
Yeah.
liked. I seem to remember being like one of the last ones I listened to, and it was probably my favorite of the bunch that you
Mhm.
posted.
It's hard for me to remember because I think they were all either from France or South America somewhere. So the names just kind of go by me.
Yeah, there's
Fall out of
definitely
my
a lot
brain.
of foreign bands, which has been your focus as you shouted that out in your review for this band, which you've been really enjoying
Yeah.
hearing gothic voices outside of your own cultural comfort zone and hearing the new sounds and like you were saying with the cadence of speech, it changes based on just all languages have their own pattern, their own cadence and tempo with which the the words flow. And Spanish
Yeah.
tends to be a very fast staccato kind of language.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yep.
English can be a little bit more language. Well, English is sort of it's right in the middle because I mean, English borrows from everywhere. So we've got bits of all kinds of languages, and we do primarily Germanic based. So we have a lot of that is a fast-ish, but a little bit more solid. It doesn't skip as much as say Spanish or Italian would, but it's not as, I guess, flowing and swoopy as like a French or even Portuguese would be. Um,
Oh, wow. This is sorry, I
it's
didn't mean
okay.
to interrupt. This is a punk rock band. It's apparently it's Bandcamp Friday, Jason said, which I forgot about. So I went to their the band's Bandcamp page. The link I had in the show notes was from the record label, but they have their own Bandcamp page apparently. And I just went there to buy the album, and it's no minimum for the whole album. You can get it for free if you want, and that's like real punk
Yeah.
rock.
Well, I mean,
right
from the
there.
label, it's $1. Or what? Yeah,
Oh, is it
it was
really?
$1
Okay,
minimum.
I didn't try and buy it.
And I
Wow.
think I threw I always pay a little bit more. I don't usually do the minimum, but yeah, that's part of what made me decide to buy it too. Is it's not my favorite genre, but it was a fun album, and they're offering it for so cheap. I'm going to support that. I mean, it's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I respect that. So it was good. But yeah, I don't remember which one. I'd have to listen to the albums because it was one afternoon. I saw you posted all these Bandcamp links on your Facebook. I'm like, I'm gonna just go ahead and listen to all of these after I listen to the one for the show.
That's cool. I'm happy to hear that because I feel like because nobody cares, nobody interacts with those posts, and I didn't even post. That was just a few that I liked, uh, which is weird because I always feel like everybody's like goth is a music based subculture, and then anytime I put Bandcamp links, I get no response or one or two people react, and I'm like, okay, well,
You got 2 likes
whatever.
on W126.
Yep,
Wondering if Sean and
2 of the 730 friends I have on Facebook.
yeah, I mean, I just don't interact on Facebook much at all, so I wouldn't have commented, but I did listen through all of them, and none of them really like, oh, this is amazing, but yeah, I enjoyed them, and I think it was that last one. I'll have to listen to them again to figure out which one I really liked.
For sure.
But yeah, I did like those.
In some ways, those are some of the better ones. I mean, there's definitely a lot of newer. That's the crazy thing I'm talking about is it's so hard to keep up with music. There's so many new, just brand new bands, and then bands that were brand new 5 years ago still making music, and a lot of it, there is a lot of music out there that's not that great, kind of like Dave was talking about. Maybe not necessarily that is just awful, but in some ways those bands are even more interesting to listen to because you can kind of think about like, what are they trying to achieve here? What's the format they're trying to fit into? What did they try and why did it fail kind of thing?
And where could they be going? Especially if it's like a
Yeah.
debut album. Debut albums oftentimes suck, even for amazing bands. The first album is always,
Yeah.
you got a little kernel of something, a little seed in there. And sometimes that seed just dies and nothing comes of it, but sometimes it blossoms into something amazing. So you can usually hear the little bits of that shining through on that first album. So yeah, it's definitely cool. And I just pulled up my Spotify playlist, which is the only playlist I really have that I listen to is my unlisted. Every time I find a band that someone recommends or I find on a recommended list online, I added to this ever growing playlist. which now has 5,616 songs on it, totaling 396 hours of music that I'm just slowly but surely kind of going through. And some of them I like and I'll remove from the playlist, but keep in my favorites in Spotify. But then some, nope, remove it from my favorites, remove it from the playlist. We're done. The problem is usually I get like a band. I'll see like, oh, this new album from this band got released and it's recommended. I'm like, well, they have other albums, so I'll just add all of their albums, not just the one that was recommended. So I tend to do that. That's part of why it's so long. It could probably be maybe a third of that length if I just added the one album that was recommended.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like to hear the whole thing. But yeah, it's hard, especially when your taste in music is like totally scattershot all over the place and you listen to a little bit of everything. It's like, do I like this or do I not? I mean, it's not bad, so I kind of like it. Should I leave it on my list? Should I remove it? I don't know. So
yeah, and I mean I like finding the weirder, smaller stuff too, because like you've got like stuff more people know, but maybe isn't super popular. Like I'm just looking through songs here, but like Kill Shelter, Kanga, Cruel Eyes, well, they're more popular. Hapax, Second Skin, Pixel Grip, stuff like that. But the real deep dive is the stuff I've been enjoying recently. Anyway, I got to move on. I can't be up all night. So let's do Sinister Suggestions.
So you've got to be interested in death. It's the last great taboo. It's the only taboo left.
Precisely. I mean, why is it, do you think, that everyone in here is dressed in black? It's a celebration of death.
No, I just like the clothes.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, the clothes look good. Yeah, I mean, death looks good. Charles Manson, yeah? No, he was cool.
Don't know if I mentioned it before, but I'm actually a vampire.
Sinister Suggestions.
How about I share something that I thought of today while we were getting ready for this episode. Absolutely. And then I'll share my actual Sinister Suggestion after yours. Cool. And that's just a very quick, I can't believe I never actually mentioned this before, but the documentary called Last Call, a Neo story. And it popped into my head because when I was thinking about talking to Dave, I was like, how do I get a feel for the flavor of what Release the Bats was and what that community was? And that Neo documentary is such a great snapshot of the Chicago scene, not just the goth scene, and specific to Neo, but really kind of a microcosm of the Chicago goth scene that really captures the diversity and what makes it unique in such a special way that really makes you feel, even if you've never been there, and even if you don't know who any of the people in the documentary are or who they're referencing, or you have no real connection to it, you really feel like you got a piece of that. Maybe if you're listening and you're from California and you're like, yeah, I know what Release the Bats is like. Check out, I think it's cheap. I don't remember how much the DVD is, but check that out. And it's really a beautiful like time capsule and tribute to that part of our scene here. So that's just a quick recommendation. What's your Sinister Suggestion?
So my Sinister Suggestion is not going to be a new band, I guess, because we actually reviewed them, but Kaelen Mikla just came out with a new album just earlier this week.
Oh, so what? Early this? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I gotta listen to that.
Well, I'm on there. I'm on there. When I fell in love with them when we reviewed them, I got on their mailing list, so I get all the mailings from them and Artifact Records.
Right.
So they just came out with a new album.
I love that band.
Yeah, actually, its official release date is today. I thought it was earlier than
that.
Wow.
But
I think I listened to it yesterday, but yeah, October 15th is what it says on the Bandcamp page for the release date. But Under Kuldum Northernjusum. I butchered that last word, but it's under the Northern Lights. But
it's a beautiful cover. The cover of the album.
Yeah, no, it is. But it's Kaelen Mikla. They didn't do a whole lot of really new groundbreaking stuff, but it's more of that same quality, Icelandic, dark, folkish, electronic, rocky. It's a little bit of a mishmash of all that stuff. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. But you know, I fell in love with the band when we reviewed that one album, Note After Note, I think it was. Saw them in concert at Cold Waves a few years ago. I think they played at the, since you were mentioning it, they did play at the New York City festival.
Oh, the Red Party or
Murder of Crows. Murder of Crows.
Murder of Crows.
Yeah. I believe they were listed on as playing on Murder of Crows. I think I'm trying to remember if they played at this last Cold Waves that I didn't go to because I didn't really feel like being in that crush of people these times.
No, not me.
As much as I did kind of want to see a couple of the bands there, they may have played, but I know they played the previous Cold Waves 2 years ago, and that's when I went and saw them at, which was really good. But yeah, I'd strongly recommend it. It's a solid Kaelen Mikla band. If you like Kaelen Mikla, I think you'll enjoy this album as well. So that's my Sinister suggestion.
I think tomorrow night I'll imbibe some weed and enjoy that album.
Cool.
Sounds like that'll be a good time. Generally, I try and keep stuff in what we're talking about, but this time I said fuck it because it's my last 2 months have been so chaotic. I just don't have time for anything or energy for it. But the one thing that did hook me was a video game, and it's called Frostpunk. It's a game that's set in the 1800s, and the story conceit is that the world is entering a new ice age because of pollution and because the sun is dimming. So every major country sets up these giant they're like big space heaters basically in northern regions where there's a lot of coal, with the intent of settling new cities as the earth cools around these giant heaters so that people don't freeze to death. So the game follows a colony that left London with the goal to establish this settlement and survive. So the game itself is kind of a city builder, survival kind of game. It has a pretty intense difficulty curve, but that's something that appeals to me in video games, and it's not too overwhelming. But basically you have it's a lot of resource management. You have to get wood and coal and iron and people and food and balance out these things to keep everybody happy, to keep everybody sheltered, but also there's a day-night cycle. So people only work during the day unless you force them to work 24 hours or longer shifts. And if you do, that's going to impact there's a discontent and a hope meter. If you make people work 24 hours, your discontent is going to go up or your hope is going to go down. Things outside of your control will also impact those, and so you can manage them through passing laws as well. So for example, you can decide if you want to build a cemetery because that's going to give people some comfort, or you can decide to throw all the bodies into a hole you dug in the ground to harvest their organs later for people who get sick, but that's going to cause people to lose hope because it's pretty dark. And then you'll have things happen where you'll have refugees show up, so that puts a stress on your resources. Or if you want it, you can just say, sorry, the doors are closed, you can freeze to death outside the city. So you're constantly having to plan like 4 moves ahead to stay afloat, which is really, it adds up to this sort of really addicting gameplay loop, which was the primary thing I liked. At least my first playthrough of the main campaign, it did a good job of, because I didn't know what this game was going into it. I kind of went into the game thinking, all right, I'm going to play like I play RPGs, where I'm the good person, I'm the good communist, I'm a benevolent leader, whatever kind of role they put me into. But because the game is so everything is on a razor's edge, where if you fuck up, it starts going downhill really hard. Or at least I started viewing the scenario less as what would I do in real life, and more like a video game or numbers and a meter with win-lose conditions. So I started making decisions that were like, well, I would obviously never do this, but it's going to prevent my discontent meter from going all the way up, and then I lose the game, and I'm 10 hours into the game, and I don't want to start all the way back over from the beginning. But then towards the end, like at one point, I basically set up a religious cult, kind of like a fascist religious cult, and then had a man or an innocent person executed for crimes against the religion in order to keep everybody happy. And then at that point I was like, it kind of,
I'm already a monster, so
yeah. Yeah, it kind of hit me in a weird way that I didn't expect. So in I guess in like a meta way, it reproduced the mindset that influences people that support authoritarian systems, or in a weird, weird way, because I started seeing the people not as people but as means to an end, because I kind of had to, in order to beat the game. I think you can complete the game without doing these actually like really bad things, but you have to be really good at it. So it kind of snuck up on me, and I thought it was just an interesting way to handle like a morality system. Morality systems in games generally suck, and I don't think this one is necessarily great, but you make the meaning out of it, and you decide what lesson you get out of it, or if it impacts you at all, right? Because I watched somebody do a playthrough, and the whole thing was just memes, like, it's, oh, boo-hoo, your mommy died and now you're hungry, shut up and get back in the coal mine, that kind of thing, where you just completely depersonalize the whole experience and make a joke about it. So I just thought that was an interesting aspect to a city builder kind of game. So if you're into, I had never played a game like this before. If you're into these kinds of games, you've already played it, but it is just such an addicting game. I usually go to bed around 2 a.m. on Saturdays, and the weekend that I played this, I was up till 5 or 6 in the morning, because you have to plan, like I was saying, you have to plan 4 moves ahead, and there's this day-night cycle. So when you get to the end of the night, at the end of the day into the night, you're like, okay, what am I going to do tomorrow? I'd have to do this, and then I have to wait for that to finish, and then I have to do this, and I have to do this.
Yep.
And I'd get to the night, and I'm like, well, I can stop now, but I kind of really want to see what happens when my scouts get to this base camp and see what they discover. So let's just do a couple more things. And then it's just like you keep doing that forever. And then you've been up for 12 hours.
Those of us who like to play the strategy games and city builders and empire builders, that's called the one more turn syndrome. We all have it. It always happens, because it's just one more step, right? It's just one little thing, but then that thing spawns 7 new things, and your curiosity is piqued. And you're like, well, I just have to see one more thing. And you do that for hours.
It's hard to leave and then come back, because if you come back the next day, you have to like take an inventory of like, what the fuck is even happening? Because there's 30 different things that you're juggling at the same time. But yeah, so that was my deep dive into that.
So I've had that on my wish list in Steam for maybe a year and a half, 2 years maybe now. It's just, I've just never quite pulled the trigger on it. It pops up in Steam sales every once in a while, like, that looks good, but I've got too many things on my Steam. I may go ahead and pick it up. It does sound interesting. And I mean, I've already talked to you about it, but I'm definitely into that sort of game. I've recommended a few, the sort of civilization, you're the commander of a world and you're trying to build and survive. Though this is more, like you said, more of a survival city builder rather than a 4X strategy where you're expanding and conquering.
Right.
But it's in the same umbrella genre of sort of just infrastructure management game, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely into that sort of thing. So yeah, I may jump into it. We'll see.
They announced the sequel recently.
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, if you're interested, I might buy it for you, because I canceled my Bloodlines 2 pre-order from 2019. That was like $97, and they didn't give me my money back. They gave me Steam credit. So I have money to burn now, I guess.
I mean, I could probably get myself a lot of Steam credit if I went through and weeded my Steam library and sold back things that I've had in my Steam library for months or years, but have never opened or installed or played.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I could make a lot of money that way. Though maybe it would be all Steam credit. I don't know. It doesn't really matter that much to me. But no, don't buy it for me. I'll get it myself. I don't need to worry about that.
All right, next month on Cemetery Confessions, we're going to be returning with our annual death episode, and we're going to be talking about the fear of death, among other things. Our guest is going to be Sanctus Manium, who is sort of a jack of all trades, but among those trades, death doula is one of them. Sanctus Manium is a member of our Patreon community and friend of the show, so I'm really excited to get to speak in depth about this topic. It's going to be a heavy one, but I think an important episode. So I hope you return for that. And speaking of Patreon, if you enjoy this podcast and the YouTube channel and want to support what we're doing, maybe get some extra rewards, you can head over to patreon.com/Cemetery Confessions and get early access to the podcast for as little as $1 a month. So if you do that, I really appreciate it and would love to have you join our community. And to everyone who does support the podcast on Patreon, thank you as always from the bottom of my heart, because this show does not continue to exist without your support. And in many ways, I don't continue to exist without your support. So thank you so much for everything you do for us. And thank you for hanging out on this episode of Cemetery Confessions. Until next time, stay dark.
The preceding program is a member of The Belfry, a network of blogs, podcasts, and videos for the darkly inclined. Go to thebelfry.rip for more information.